The Portland Trailblazers have avoided playing games, and they've even saved a man his house, according to the Sky Twitter. But are the Portland Trailblazers legitimate contenders this year? Can they make it back to the conference finals or even further and best what they have done in the Damian Lillard, C.J. McCollum era with the addition of Robert Covington and Norman Powell most notably? That is what we're going to be talking about today. Like and subscribe if you are new and you enjoy NBA content like this, and let's get right into it. So first off, what determines a contender? We've talked about this in the series on the channel. He needs star power that can get you buckets. Well, Portland have an abundance of that. They arguably have the most of that in the league. They have Damian Lillard, of course, who is one of the most clutch players in the playoffs in recent memory. They have C.J. McCollum, who can also get a bucket at a very high rate. They have Norman Powell, who's very good at getting his own bucket and hitting threes at a very high clip. And they also have Carmelo Anthony, who's one of the best ISO mid-range players that we have seen in the last 15 to 20 years in the NBA. Of course, past his prime, but still very good at getting the ball in the bucket. And so this team has no shortage of scoring options. Offense has never been the issue for Portland. They are a top 5 offensive efficiency team in the league, I believe. Let me confirm that. Offensive efficiency. They are tied for 4th. They're right there, right? Their offense is electric, especially with Norman Powell there now. They just add even more offense. Derek Jones Jr. moving down, way down in the rotation, and Norman Powell being the starter. But that ties into my next point. To be a contender, you need to have good offense and you need to have good defense. And that and defense is very important in that 3-word statement, which makes sense. But Portland Trailblazers struggle on defense. That's not an unknown thing to anyone. But it's not just that they struggle. They are tremendously bad for anyone in the NBA, never mind a team that has aspirations of competing for the title. And that is my biggest letdown in the argument for them being a contender or a contender. They are second last in the league this season in defensive efficiency, worse than Houston, Minnesota, Cleveland, Orlando, OKC. That is some bad teams, and teams that are bad defensively. Portland are worse than all of those teams by defensive efficiency on defense. And the eye test will prove it. Damian Lillard is not a good defender. C.J. McCollum is definitely not a good defender, very undersized for his position. Norman Powell at 3, when he tries, can be a decent defender, but at the 3, he's very undersized as well, so he struggles there. Robert Covington, of course, is a very good defender. Nurkic is a decent defender. Then if you look at the guys off the bench that play minutes for them, Carmelo Anthony is not a good defender, and Enes Kanter is a historically terrible defender, specifically in the pick and roll. And Anthony Simons is hit and miss, can be terrible on defense, but can have good moments as well. Derek Jones Jr. is fairly good defensively, but doesn't really play that much anymore. And so when you look at the core of this roster, specifically their main 3 of Lillard, McCollum, and Powell, they are not good defensively. And so if a team has any amount of perimeter talent, one of Damian Lillard, McCollum, or Powell has to guard them. Normally it's Powell, and it's tough, and it shows in their defense. They have to outscore teams to win, and that's hard to rely on because some nights the offense just isn't there at the same level as you would like it, and that causes problems for Portland. But outside of that, let's just look at their depth. I like their depth. I don't think they're the deepest team in the league by any stretch. They're not losing with depth, but they have it as Kanter, who's a quality offensive backup center. They have Carmelo Anthony, who can get you a bucket off the bench. They have Zero Little, who's a good developing prospect who can give you a little bit of everything off the bench. Anthony Simons can get hot from deep and give you some minutes off the bench as a guard. And then Derek Jones Jr., who I think should be utilized more in this team for their defense, because this team needs defense, and I think Derek Jones Jr. can give them that. But he doesn't get utilized to that extent, but he is good depth for them as well. Having another year on his $9 million contract. And Ronnie Hollis Jefferson is around as well. If they want to go a bit deeper into the bench for some wing depth and hustle, rebounding, and energy. And so depth is definitely not an issue for this team. It's not outstanding, but it's definitely not holding them back by any stretch. I'd say it's slightly above average. But that comes back to they have the star power, they have the depth. That is 2 of my 3 criteria for considering you a contender. The third has to be good on offense and defense. 2 key words out of the 3-word statement that we came back to. Yeah, well, that part they're not good at. As we mentioned, they are terrible. They're one of the worst teams in the league on the defensive end, and I don't think that's going to change in the playoffs because it's not due to a lack of effort. It is purely just the personnel on this roster and how it is constructed. And that's why I didn't love the Norman Powell trade for them. It just didn't make sense because offense wasn't the issue. I understand that they probably didn't want to re-sign Gary Trent. They were going to have to go for the cap, give him a lot of money. Sure, they wanted to trade him. Fair enough. But for Norman Powell, the fit just doesn't make sense. You increase your scoring, which is great, but Portland didn't need to improve their scoring. They had Gary Trent, they had Carmelo Anthony, Enes Kanter, Damian Lillard, and CJ McCollum, of course, most notably. And now you add Norman Powell. That's great. Your offense is insane. It's one of the most dominant offenses in the NBA. Kudos to you. Can you defend? No. Then it doesn't matter, in my opinion. And that's the downfall to the Portland Trailblazers. I love their offense. They're a very fun team to watch. I like sitting down and watching the Portland Trailblazers because I know it is going to be an exciting, high-paced scoring game. It's not going to be a slugfest or a defensive game. It is just going to be offense, 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 which is great as a neutral fan. As a Portland Trailblazers fan, that's going to frustrate the heck out of you, especially come the playoffs on. And that is ultimately why I don't believe in the Portland Trailblazers being a contender. I just think the defense is god-awful, quite honestly, for lack of a better term. I wish it wasn't, because I love this Portland team. I love Norman Powell. I'm a Raptor fan. But this Portland team just doesn't have the defensive capabilities to do it. They have certain individuals like Nurkic and Covington, but they don't have enough. And ultimately, I think that's going to be their downfall this season in the playoffs. And I wouldn't be surprised to see them go up early because of that. If you guys did enjoy the video, feel free to leave a like down below and subscribe to the channel if you are new. I will be continuing 4 more contender videos over the course of the next few days before the NBA playoffs start, as well as some NBA playoff predictions and previews before the first round starts. It is a great, exciting time to be an NBA fan. I hope you guys do enjoy it, and I hope you guys did enjoy the video. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and I will see you guys in the next one.